A baby locks eyes with you across the room and refuses to look away. No blinking, no shifting focus, just pure, unwavering attention that makes you wonder if they can see something you can't. Most people smile awkwardly, maybe wave, maybe look away first, because honestly, it's a little intense. But neuroscientists have been studying what happens inside that tiny developing brain during those moments, and what they've discovered challenges everything we assumed about infant behavior. You'd think babies stare because their vision is terrible and faces just happen to be close by. Makes sense on the surface. Newborns are born with 20/200 vision, only able to focus clearly on objects 8 to 12 inches away, which is conveniently the exact distance from your arms to your face when holding them. But here's what doesn't add up. By 3 months old, their visual range expands dramatically. They can see across the room. They could look at the ceiling fan, the window, the family dog, literally anything else in their environment. And yet, they keep choosing your face every single time. That's not a vision problem. That's a choice. When researchers at the University of Cambridge decided to investigate why, they used a technique called functional near-infrared spectroscopy to measure neural activity in both infants and adults during face-to-face interaction. They were looking for brainwave patterns, electrical rhythms firing across neural networks. What showed up in the data stopped the entire field of developmental neuroscience cold. When a baby stares at you, when that gaze locks in, their brainwaves begin to synchronize with yours. The same frequencies, the same rhythms, two separate brains firing in coordinated patterns simultaneously. They tested it multiple ways. Adult looking away, no synchronization, neutral expression with no eye contact, partial sync. But direct mutual gaze, true eye contact, produced the strongest neural coupling the researchers had ever recorded between two people of different ages. Your baby isn't just looking at you. They're using your brain as a template. Think about what that means. Their developing neural networks are literally aligning themselves with yours, using your patterns as a guide for building their own. Infants who received more contingent face-to-face interaction during their first 6 months, meaning their cues were noticed and responded to, showed measurably greater development in the prefrontal cortex. That's the region responsible for planning, decision-making, emotional regulation, and complex social behavior. The architecture that runs human cognition. Every time you hold their gaze, you're not just bonding, you're building hardware. But babies don't stare at everyone the same way. And this is where it gets strange. Researchers at Harvard Medical School showed 3-month-old infants, two faces side by side, a stranger and their primary caregiver. The infant stared longer at the stranger, which seems completely backwards until you understand the principle. Cognitive scientists call it the violation of expectation response. Babies stare longer at things they haven't fully processed yet. The stranger is a puzzle, novel information their brain needs to categorize. The caregiver's face, though, by 3 months, they've already logged thousands of hours analyzing that face. Every expression, every micro-movement, every emotional shift. When they look at you, their person, they're not confused. They're reading you. And what they're reading goes far deeper than you realize. By 5 months, babies can distinguish between a genuine smile and a fake one. By 6 months, they track your emotional state and use it to decide how to respond to the world around them. You look scared, they freeze. You look excited, they reach. But there's one experiment that reveals just how critical this staring actually is. And when researchers first conducted it, the results were so disturbing, it sparked years of ethical debate. It's called the still face paradigm, designed in 1975 by Dr. Edward Tronick at Harvard. The setup is devastatingly simple. A mother sits across from her infant, smiling, talking, responding normally. The baby is happy, engaged, locked onto her face. Then, on cue, the mother's expression goes completely blank. Still face, no smile, no reaction, eyes open, but nothing behind them. What happens in the next 2 minutes is one of the most studied behavioral sequences in all of developmental psychology. The baby notices immediately. They smile bigger, trying to get her back. They point, vocalize, deploy every strategy that normally works. Nothing. The attempts intensify. Bigger gestures, louder sounds, increasingly desperate bids for connection. Still, nothing. Within 90 seconds, most infants show measurable physiological stress. Cortisol spikes, heart rate climbs. Some cry, others go eerily still themselves, mirroring the mother's blankness in a kind of emotional shutdown. When the mother finally re-engages, recovery happens fast, but not instantly. Here's what decades of this research revealed. Babies aren't passive recipients waiting to be cared for. They're active participants in a continuous emotional exchange. And that exchange runs almost entirely through the face. The stare isn't admiration or confusion. It's conversation at the most fundamental level your species possesses. Your baby is speaking to you with their eyes, and they need you to speak back. Now here's what almost nobody discusses outside academic journals. What babies are actually constructing during all that staring goes beyond emotional connection. Researchers at MIT's Brain and Cognitive Sciences Department tracked infant development across the first year of life. The finding reshapes everything about how we understand intelligence formation. Babies who receive more contingent face-to-face interaction, where their signals get noticed and answered, develop measurably more robust prefrontal cortex architecture. That's the brain region running executive function, impulse control, and social cognition for the rest of their lives. Being stared at and staring back is construction work. You're not just bonding when you hold their gaze. You're laying neural infrastructure. Which brings us to the warning, because there is one. If you notice an infant who consistently avoids eye contact, who doesn't track faces, who seems to look through people rather than at them, that's not personality variation. Reduced or absent gaze behavior in infancy represents one of the earliest observable markers researchers associate with atypical social development. It doesn't guarantee anything is wrong. Every child moves through milestones on their own timeline. But pediatric neuroscientists are unambiguous on this point. Early identification changes outcomes. The brain's plasticity in the first 2 years never reaches that peak again. Intervention at 6 months produces results that intervention at 2 years simply cannot replicate. If something about the stare or its absence feels off, trust that instinct. You've been calibrating to your child's face since their first hour of life. You're probably the most sensitive instrument on Earth for detecting when something has shifted. So the next time a baby locks eyes with you across a room and just stares, understand what's actually happening. Their brain is reaching for yours. They're using your face to learn how to be human, how to feel, how to parse what's safe from what isn't, how to exist among other people. 15,000 years of evolution didn't give babies those large, irresistible eyes by accident. Those eyes are the most sophisticated social interface ever developed. When one locks onto yours, there's only one correct response. Stare back. If this changed how you see the babies in your life, I want to know. Was there a moment when an infant's stare stopped you cold, made you feel like something bigger was happening than you understood at the time? Drop it in the comments. And if you're wondering why babies laugh at nothing, at empty corners of rooms at 3 in the morning, at things only they seem to perceive, that's next. The neuroscience behind it is stranger than any explanation you've heard.